Shalom, brothers and sisters. Grace be unto you and peace from YAHUAH the Father and Yahushua the Messiah, his Son. This is Brother David coming to you again to bring you the Sabbath and the feast days are wrong. This is part 3, and this episode is about the Jews. Take a look at this collaboration, the Catholic and the Jews together as one. This is a confederate against us. Do you know that the Jews supplied the ships to take us into captivity? And the Roman Catholics, the popes, gave permission. Did you know that? They took us off our borders and took us into captivity and stole our identity. These Jews are what they call cuckoo birds. If you don't know what a cuckoo bird is, just go to YouTube. Type in cuckoo bird. Watch the video. Let me tell you what a cuckoo bird does. The cuckoo bird finds a nest of another bird, of another species, that has eggs in it already. He waits for the parents to go out hunting. When they go out hunting for food, he comes and lays his egg in the nest right alongside the eggs that are already there. When the eggs hatch, or the cuckoo bird's egg hatch, which hatches before the others, he pushes the other eggs out of the nest. When the parents return, all of the sustenance, everything that they gather to bring back to the nest for food for their chicks, goes to the cuckoo birds. This is what they're doing to us. The world sees them as the people of the covenant. But they're not. They're cuckoo birds. They have supplanted us. They have taken our place. They have stolen our identity. They are identity thieves. That's why we don't follow them. Some things that they do are on point, but you have to investigate everything first. But most of the things that they do is to worship their God, not YAHUAH, brothers and sisters. They won't even mention his name. When it comes to his name in Torah, they say Hashem, the name, and that's it. In biblical times, if you mentioned the name of YAHUAH, it was under the pain of death, because they said that name was too sacred to utter. What a lie. The Bible says those who call upon the name of YAHUAH shall be saved. So if you can't call upon the name, who's going to be saved? But if you're following the weekly Sabbath, listen, on Saturday, you're following the cuckoo birds. We were all doing it. We were all in this strong delusion believing this lie. But it's time for the awakening to return back to YAHUAH. Let's begin. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 5. In the 14th day of the first month at even is YAHUAH's Passover. He's telling you that the first month of the year, you can find the Passover on the 14th day. Let's see how the Jews do it. Look on the beginning of this chart. You have on the top, you have the civic month, the religious month, the Jewish name, the days, and the Gregorian calendar. Let's deal with Passover. Remember, Passover is in the first month of the year. If you come down to number 7, see the civic month, number 7, that means month 7. Then it says religious month, month 1. Then it tells you the Jewish name Nisan. I want you to understand Passover is, and Feast of Unleavened Bread, that month is called Abib. Nisan is the Babylonian term that they're using. They're telling you here from the civic month that this is the 7th month of the year. But when religion, whatever religious stuff that they've created, it has become the first month of the year. Are you seeing what I'm trying to tell you? They have gotten things so mixed up that anyone who tries to follow these people, you're going to be lost because they're dealing with Talmud. Go back to the civic month, to the top. It says civic month number 1, religious month number 7, Jewish name Tishri, 30 days. The Gregorian calendar tells you it's September into October. What does Tishri represent? Tishri is supposed to be the 7th month. But they're telling you that that is the first month. Have you ever heard the term Rosh Hashanah? Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of the Jewish New Year. Rosh Hashanah starts at the Feast of Trumpets. Are you getting this, brothers and sisters? Can you follow these people? They've got things so twisted around that you won't know if you're coming or going dealing with them. Now, I spoke to one of the brothers. He's a Mizrahi Jew. And I asked him, how do you find the starting point of the new moon to dictate when the beginning of the month is? Which one is it? The black, the crescent, the full? He told me the only way that you can find these things out is that you have to go to the rabbis, the Jewish sages. They're the only ones who are authorized to do the calculations. I haven't found that in Scripture. The Father says every time, speaking to the children of Israel, when he's given instructions, that means that each one of us is responsible to know when the beginning of months is, when Passover is, when the feast days are, when the Sabbath days are. That's why he's given us a book, so that we don't follow people and follow him. What have we been doing? Following people. Rosh Hashanah, this is 2017, the history of Rosh Hashanah, which wasn't always the new year, Haaretz.com. Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year. Here it is, brothers and sisters. They're telling you what it is. The day the Hebrew calendar begins. That is a lie. The Hebrew calendar begins at Abib, the month in which you find the Passover Feast of Unleavened Bread. But that wasn't always the case. In fact, the ancient Hebrews probably had no concept of when the year started at all. That is a lie. We just read Leviticus. He told us that the month of Abib would be the first month of the year. Nor did they give the months names. Now that is true. We never named it January, February, March, April. It's the first month, second month, third month. The Torah merely enumerating them, the first month, the 7th month. Nowadays we celebrate, not we, them, Rosh Hashanah on the first day of the fall month of Tishri. That's your 7th month. But you have your new year on the 7th month in the first day of Tishri, which would be the Feast of Trumpets. But in biblical times, that period was explicitly called the 7th month. No such thing as Tishri. During the first temple period, 8th to mid 6th century BCE, the year began in the spring on the first day of Nisan, not Nisan. That is the Babylonian term. It is Abib. Now I was telling you the 8th to the mid 6th century BCE. That's 800 BC or 600 BC. Now we understand these terms now, don't we? Because I made a video about Jerusalem and you heard about Zedekiah and all of the different letters that were written on these ostrakas, these little clay tablets that they found. And it dated back to 600 BCE. Let's continue. Also, when listing the holidays, the Bible always starts with the spring holiday of Passover in the 7th month. Remember, the Bible starts with that, not the Jews. They don't deal with the Bible nor Torah. They follow Talmud. Exodus 12:1. Listen what he says. This is what the mighty one says. Who are we going to follow? Men or the mighty one? And YAHUAH spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, verse 2, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. What month was that? Abib. When was it? In the spring. Was it in the fall, Brother David? No. So we know that everything they do is inverted. It's a lie. Look at their calendar. Come down to day 9. On the bottom, you'll see it says Erev Rosh Hashanah. That's the evening of Rosh Hashanah. Now, I was out there during this time, looking up at the sky, looking for the moon. It was a dark moon on that stage. Believe me, you could see absolutely nothing. Nothing. The sun did not reflect its light on the moon, so therefore it was just a blank sky. How did they arrive at this? Astronomical calculations. Not moon sighting, because in order for you to do a moon sighting, you have to actually look up and see a light. They bypassed that. But look, they've made provision. Erev Rosh Hashanah, then day 10, you have Rosh Hashanah, and day 11, you have Rosh Hashanah again. So in case they needed to adjust the calendar, they can have Rosh Hashanah on the 10th or the 11th. Are you understanding what I'm saying here? Look at 12. They have the fast of Gedaliah. Who's that? Better yet, can you find that in Torah? In Leviticus 23, I've been through it maybe 50 times. I've never seen anything about a fast of Gedaliah for us to observe, but yet they observe it. They're adding things to the game. In this month, you are only supposed to do Feast of Trumpets, Day of Atonement, Feast of Tabernacles. Trumpets is on day 1. Day 10 is the Day of Atonement. 5 days later, on the 15th of the month, begins the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days, and on the 8th day is a holy convocation. Did you hear me? 15th day. Hold it 1 second. So far, we have 2 days that were mentioned of the 15th. Feast of Unleavened Bread, and now the Feast of Trumpets. 2 feast days on the 15th of the month. How do you get there? With the Gregorian calendar? or even the Jewish calendar here. All right, just say Rosh Hashanah starts on the 10th or the 11th. Which one is it? You choose, they say. But here's the problem. If you're going to use this calendar to find out when Feast of Trumpets is, why are you not using this calendar to find out when your Sabbath day is? They don't have to do that because their Sabbath day is fixed. Hillel II fixed their Saturday Sabbath. Do we follow this calendar? Absolutely not. Encyclopedia Judaica, Volume 12, page 1039. Originally, the new moon was not fixed by astronomical calculation, but was solemnly proclaimed after witnesses had testified to the reappearance of the crescent of the moon. You got that? That's how it's done in the Middle East and in the regions where we came from. Calculating by the solar calendar is a European thing. You should also know that the word for observe is the Hebrew word shamar. Shamar means look narrowly for, search. Number 8104 in Strong's. The Holiday Concise Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon defines it as watching in the sense of looking. So you have to observe something. Vine's complete expository dictionary of Old and New Testament words includes the definitions mark, watchman, wait, watch, look narrowly. The command is to look for, wait for, watch, and mark the new moon. The switch over from watching for the first visible crescent to calculating conjunctions to determine the month's beginning came with Hillel II's calendar revisions in the 4th century CE. 400 years after Hillel created his own calendar, he revised it just so that every single Sabbath will land on what? Saturday. By the middle of the 4th century, the sages had established a permanent calendar, and the public proclamation of the new moon was discontinued. All right. So they're not following any dark moon. They're not looking up anymore. They're not following any crescent moon. Remember, they're not looking at the calendar in the sky anymore. They're not following the full moon. They are not looking at the calendar in the sky anymore. They're dealing with astronomical calculations, conjunctions. Are we supposed to follow them? Remember, these are the so-called people of the covenant. The world follows them to establish how they should function. Remember what they are. Cuckoo birds. They've supplanted us. This was our job. We've dropped the ball, and even though we've come back, and now we're beginning to find our path back to YAHUAH, we still have too many stumbling blocks in our way. We're trying to remove all of the stumbling blocks. What have we removed so far? All calendars is outside of the window. We've thrown them out. We know we can't follow the Gregorians, the Roman Catholics. Now you see the Jews, the so-called people of the covenant. They have dismissed with Torah, and they are following Talmud, and they're doing astronomical calculations. They're not looking up. They're not doing any sighting. They're not dealing with the calendar in the sky anymore. They've created their own permanent calendar. Jubilees, chapter 6, verse 32. Command you, the children of Israel. Let's pause for a second. He didn't say command the Jews. He did not say command the Catholics. He did not say command any other group of people except for the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this counting, 364 days. And these will constitute a complete year. And they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feasts. For everything will fall out in them according to their testimony, and they will not leave out any day nor disturb any feast. We have a different commandment from the Jews and the rest of the world. Remember, the Hijri calendar brought the month or the year in 10 days too soon. Then you have the Gregorian calendar brings the months in 10 days too soon. We cannot follow anyone. We cannot follow anything outside of Torah, outside of the books that the Father has given to us to show us the path. Why Rosh Hashanah can fall out on only certain days of the week. See the word fall out? Isn't that what Jubilees just said? The Rabbinu Yaakov ben Asher, 1269 to 1343, observes in Ora Hayam Siman 428, that's the oral traditions, that's Talmud, that the sages established the calendar in such a way that the first day of Rosh Hashanah cannot fall out on Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday. You remember those 3 separate days that I showed you? They can manipulate the calendar to make it any way they want it to be. That's plain and simple. Is that the way that the Mighty One does everything? He has his fixed days. But they have made or compensated for this calendar that they have created where every Saturday is the Sabbath day. And when you do that, you have to compensate for certain things because you can't have it fall on a Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday. This principle is known by the phrase, Lo Adu Rosh. Rosh Hashanah cannot begin on the days represented by the letters Aleph, Sunday, Dalet, Wednesday, or Vav for Friday. The reason why the sages did not want Rosh Hashanah to begin on Sunday is because this would result in Rosh Hashanah Rabbah falling on Shabbat, which would prevent us from fulfilling the special mitzvah of a Rabbah on that day. In order to assure that we would be able to observe the precious mitzvah, this is all Talmud, in case you don't know these terms, the sages saw to it that Hoshana Rabbah would never fall on Shabbat. How do you do that? You have to manipulate the calendar. And if Rosh Hashanah would fall on Wednesday, then Yom Kippur would fall on a Friday. How do you do that? You have to manipulate the calendar. This is why the brother said the only way that you can find the Sabbaths and the feast days is that you have to go to who? The rabbis, the sages. Only they can calculate it. Why? Because that's all it is calculations, brothers and sisters. Endless calculations. This would result in 2 consecutive days, Friday and Shabbat, when burial is forbidden. And if somebody would die, heaven forbid, the body would decompose over the course of the 2 days. They're telling you that if someone was to die, they won't even put them in the ground because it's on the Sabbath. Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. In order to protect the dignity of those who pass away at the beginning of Yom Kippur, the sages ensured that Yom Kippur would never fall on Friday. For the same reason, they wanted to ensure that Yom Kippur would never fall out on Sunday. You know what Yom Kippur is, right? That's the Feast of Tabernacles. How do you get it to fall in the days that you want to? You have to manipulate the calendar, which would again result in 2 consecutive days when burial is forbidden, and thus Rosh Hashanah cannot begin on Friday, which would result in Yom Kippur falling on Sunday. Again, you have to manipulate the calendar. Are you seeing that so far, everything that you've seen are the ways of men, nothing to do with the Mighty One? Wikipedia. The identification of the term Star of David or Shield of David with the hexagram-shaped dates to the 17th century. Did you believe that it went all the way back to the time of King David? It doesn't. It started in the 17th century. 1700 years after our Messiah went to the tree. The term Shield of David is also used in the Siddur, the Jewish prayer book. Jewish. Has nothing to do with Torah, has nothing to do with the prophets or the New Testament. This is the Jewish prayer book as a title of the God of Israel. Shield of David, one of the titles of the God of Israel. Look what I put in parentheses. Chion, who is Saturn. That's their God. That's what this star is all about. If you went and read Acts of the Apostles chapter 7 about Stephen pointed the finger at them. He exposed their behavior. He told them that they were worshiping their God. They were using the star of their God. Chion, Raphan, Saturn. They even set up a day for their observance. Who did it? Hillel II fixed one day as the day that they would observe their Sabbath. No longer are they looking up at the sky, at the calendar that the Mighty One has created. They've bypassed that now. They're only using astronomical calculations because they have to keep their Saturdays in line. We just went through all of the information. Can you follow them? No, you cannot. If you follow them and their calendar and the way that they're showing you how things are done and worship on their Sabbath day, which is Saturday, you are serving their God. Who's their God? Satan. What is his title? Saturn, Chion, Raphan. And they use the star which they disguise as the Shield of David, which only came about in the 17th century and has nothing to do with our brother, King David. Continue to part 4. Shalom.